Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, man? It's Durrell. And I've got my man Corey on the other side of me. It's a new show we got going on. Getting in the Green with Perfect Strangers, where we talk about daily ball, all types of ball. But importantly, we're adding a new spin onto this show, and that is DFS. We're gonna make some money here. Corey, I can feel this. I feel really good right now, man. I don't know about you, but I feel really damn good. What is up with you, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We crushed DFS over the weekend. Got off to a hot start yesterday. Going to kind of make up for last week, but we're riding the wave right now.
Yeah. Now, so this is brand new. We've got a new show. You and I were collaborating off screen, and we just want to kind of provide a little bit of substance to our new viewers. Brand new show you and I have going on. You know me, I talk about ball a lot. I love ball. That's all I think about is ball. But we're adding a new mix to this. And now we've got you, who I've seen your receipts, man. You love DFS. You crush DFS, man. And this is a new angle, really, that I haven't gotten into. Now, everybody's familiar with DraftKings and FanDuel, things of that nature, but you take this to a whole nother level, man. Now, Corey, just give a little background to the viewers about yourself, how long you've been doing DFS, and why you like it.
Yeah, man, I've probably been doing DraftKings, FanDuel, sites like that for 5-6 years now. But I've been playing fantasy football my whole life. So It just kind of came natural. We started with football, integrated into basketball and MMA now.
Yeah.
And I love it, man. I like the numbers. I like the stats. I'm following it anyways.
Yeah.
And I find myself, I root for players more than I root for teams at this point. So why not get into the, the game where I can just pick players. I don't have to worry about who wins these games and loses. And it gives you action every night, man. Like Charlotte Hornets are playing.
Right.
If there wasn't DFS, I could care less. So this gives me something to watch. A little action every night. And I just think there's slightly more skill here in the DFS world than in betting, because
right.
In betting, anything can happen on any night.
Right.
But you talk stats. I mean, stats are pretty consistent here for players. Obviously, you got injuries, foul trouble, things happen, but it's a good game. And if you're putting in the time to study it, man, DFS is where it's at.
Now, that's funny because, I think a lot of cats in our age bracket, see, we were born in the superstar era, right? So, there was a lot of superstars in the league, in sports, but like that really came alive during, the Jordan era, if you will, to where you had superstar status, to where you had one person really selling out an arena. Even though it's always happened, it didn't happen on that level. So I can understand how you pay attention more to players, than, teams in itself, because there's a lot of good, if you want to call it that, superstars, or there's at least someone you could call a superstar on each team. One might be bigger than the other, Corey, but there's still definitely one person that you could call a superstar on your team, on every team across the league, on all sports, right? Not just basketball, but on all sports. So I completely agree with it. Now, we're talking ball today. Now, I know you also specialize in MMA. Tell me how you got into that before we get into these games.
Yeah, I mean, just a fan of the sport, and you watch it, and then it's always, you could always bet MMA. And when got into DFS, probably only about 2 years ago now, 2-3 years ago for MMA DFS. It's just exciting, man. MMA is that one thing, and it's the same with NFL. When you have that one event a week, and you get all week to kind of build up for it, you do your research, and then there's just, we're drinking beers, we're watching the fights, and
right,
something to do on a Saturday night. It's just exciting. It's entertainment. But if you really dig into it, MMA is probably the hardest of all the DFSs.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a sport where one punch changes an entire fight. And
right.
They could end in a flash. So it's probably the most inconsistent DFS, but you also have the biggest returns over there. And then, basketball and football are two different beasts, because it's an accumulation of an entire game of stats that you're looking at. There's not one singular moment. especially basketball. Even in football, you could catch an 80-yard touchdown and you just made your DFS day in one play.
Right. Absolutely.
Can't do that in
Absolutely.
basketball. Basketball is an accumulation. You have to constantly, the minutes, the usage rates, everything else really play into basketball. And so I'd say basketball is probably, the more research you do in basketball, the better you'll do. Football, slightly more luck involved, but there's also, there's research you can do. And then MMA, I mean, you're just trying to be on the winners, but anything can happen in MMA. So I definitely say the variance there is the highest.
Gotcha. Now, last question. Which one do you like better, Corey? Do you like betting, or do you like setting up lineups for MMA better than basketball, or the other way around?
I got to say it's probably still MMA, and it comes down to the once a week value of it. Because I can think about it all week.
Gotcha.
I can tweak it as the week goes on. Same with football. It's a constant process that builds up to a day of I'm in front of the TV watching this entire event. Where basketball is, man, you got to have short-term memory loss here. The night ends and you got to be back on the ball the next day.
Right. So absolutely.
I feel like there's just less emotion built into my lineups in the NBA because it's daily. I don't have time to tweak and dwell on it, sleep on it, any of that.
Yeah.
You gotta have that thing locked at 4 p.m. every night. Where I got MMA lineups in for this weekend already. I'm gonna go play around with those all week.
Gotcha. More adjustments you can make. Well, that's good, man. That is a little history about my brother Corey here, man. I've said, I've seen your receipts. I know the work that you do. You and I text a lot offline as well, man. And it's always winner, chicken dinner, man. So let's win today, man. Getting in the green with perfect strangers. It's Durrell, and I got my man Corey with me, and we are going to get into these games. The first game that we have is the Nets and the Mavericks. Let's take a step back, man. I'm serious. Did you see the damn injury reports for yesterday's games?
Out of control, man.
Yeah, man. So I've made up my mind that I'm really not going to get to the window. And I mean, this is a continuation, actually, if you ask me, from the last 2 seasons, where they're just tricking off these injury reports, man. And the next thing you know, you got guys sitting like an hour before tip-off, or like 30 minutes before the game, you see a late scratch. I'm sick of it. That the advantage is really getting to the board early. I don't think that's the case anymore, man, because like I said yesterday, you've got to gamble, right? You've got to make sure without a shadow of a doubt, if you're not ahead of the news, that a player is really going to be either in or out. And that's what we have with the first game here. We've got the Nets and the Mavs. Right now, man, I'm seeing this Brooklyn 16-7. Dallas is 11-11. They are actually very close to the ATS. Brooklyn being 9-14, Dallas being 9-13. Brooklyn's away record is 8-2. Dallas's home record is 6-5. This is their first matchup this year, but here we are with the injury reports. We've got Johnson, probable, shoulder. You've got Duke, questionable, hip. On Dallas's side, you've got Hardaway Jr., questionable, knee. Kristaps Porzingis, probable, knee. Luka Doncic, questionable. You just don't know what you're getting here, man. And so we have this line right now at Brooklyn -4. I'm thinking because it is so low, the gamble that I'm going to take is you're probably going to see these guys come in. If Luka and Kristaps is out, this should be a higher line because you have better players out for Dallas than you do Brooklyn. This is the first game that they're playing this year. We know that Brooklyn does pretty well, like I said, on the road. Their last game, as you can see, I'm looking at their schedule now. I see it was played on the 4th. So they've had a couple of days rest. Brooklyn's last game on the 4th. Their next game is on the 8th. Dallas's last game was on the 4th. Their next game is on the 8th as well. They played Memphis, and it looks like they're going to go back and play them again after this game. Do you have any looks on this game as far as sides-wise or players?
Yeah, I'm leaning Brooklyn here. Brooklyn is a team that will not play down to their competition. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Right.
and they haven't seemed to beat the top level teams yet this year when they've gotten faced with them. But I don't think Dallas is up there as one of these top teams in the NBA. And I think their lack of size inside is really gonna take Dallas down today. So for me, especially on DFS, I'm loving Aldridge tonight. I think he's been this almost unsung hero for this Brooklyn team. They found a gem there. And I mean, the guy is just consistently doing work since he's been moved into the starting lineup.
Right. Right.
I don't think Dallas has anything for him down low. I think Aldridge could definitely have a monster game today. And as far as DFS for the rest of this game, though, I mean, we just got to kind of sit back and wait for some news.
Yeah.
Because if we got Luka and Porzingis out, even Hardaway Jr., guys like Brunson, Maxi Kleber, all of a sudden become, must plays at their price points. But yeah, I mean, for me, the only guarantee I have is I'm playing Aldridge tonight at center.
Okay.
$5,700. The guy's going to get me 30. I feel good about it. I probably won't be touching Durant Harden because it's kind of hard to decipher who's going to get it done on a given night. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Durant tonight.
Do you think Durant's numbers are just going to be juiced the entire year only because he's just really unstoppable? I mean, well, how do you play him? Do you got to pick the right spot to play him, or do you got to have a really good team and try to have his points as low as possible? How the hell do you play Durant?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be wrong when you play a guy at that price point.
Right, right.
I think what are we sitting at tonight? I think he's going to be, 10,800. So I need 64 points out of that guy to make it worth the play, fantasy points. And yeah, I mean, the matchup, like I said, it has to be perfect. Generally, if I'm going to Durant or Harden, it's because the other one's out. In games they both play, I tend to stay away from it. It's similar, with the Lakers we'll get into later when the big three are on the court, it's hard to pick who's going to get it done on a given night. So, yeah, I'm leaning Aldridge here, and I'll probably, like I said, if I had to pick one, I would go Durant over Harden. They're the same price, but most likely not going there tonight.
Yeah, this one here is like I said, the -4 is kind of tricky. I do believe Brooklyn's that great of a team to where they should be laying more points, but at the same token, you do have Kristaps who's playing a lot better. Looking at a couple of these numbers here, Corey, I've got one model that has this line at 0.085. I got that goes to Brooklyn, so they don't even cover there. I've got another model that has this at -1.83. That goes to Brooklyn, so they don't even cover there. I've got one team total right now the point total at 216. So just looking at the total itself, we've got the total here right now at 218.5. I have seen this actually, it looks like it's gone up. It was at 215.5 in some books, and now it's at 218.5. So right now it looks like the early bettors, the sharps, are telling you, hey, first off, the line was short in the beginning. I mean, so maybe at the 2.5, you're seeing probably some skepticism with people thinking that Brooklyn should easily cover a 2.5, but now to get bumped up to 4, this line has just short period. And so that tells me that everybody who can play is going to play, including the stars. You got Dallas at home. You want to try to get up and beat these boys. I don't see why you don't play Luka and Kristaps if they're if they can get up and go. You got to do it. You got to do it. So right now, this is a no play for me until I get some more information on it. I can totally understand you and the lineups as well. This one here, man, I've got to see the injury reports. I really do. If somebody's out, then that's going to completely change this number. We'll see what happens, man. We will see what happens here. All right. So the next game on the board is Knicks and Spurs, man. We've got the Knicks and Spurs. Right now, there's been no movement on this line. We've got New York Knicks going to San Antonio. That line's at 2.5. The total was 212.5. It is now at 211. I'll tell you right now, man, I don't know what's going on with the Knicks. I have no idea. These guys started off strong, very strong in the beginning. They are now sitting 11-12. They are under 500. The Spurs are 8-14, but you're getting with what you're getting with the Spurs. Their home record 6-4. Or their ATS record is 6-4. Their home record is 4-6. New York right now sitting at 6-4 on the road, but they're also at a 6-4 ATS. Last 10, 4-6 ATS, with San Antonio being 6-4. We saw a great win with San Antonio against Golden State. They came alive also against Phoenix, but Phoenix came down and got them at the end. They didn't cover that. So now you got San Antonio on a back-to-back with the Knicks themselves. It looks like they haven't played since the 4th. So they've got 2 days rest, and you're only determined to beat San Antonio by 2.5 points. To me, man, that's very telling. That's telling because it kind of tells me that San Antonio can still get up and get this one done. What are you thinking about this game?
I know nobody's injured outside of Vassell here for San Antonio, but I wouldn't be shocked to see some late additions on the second half of this back-to-back for the Spurs.
Right.
And that scares me. If the Spurs rolled out everybody, I think they get it done, man.
Yeah.
The Knicks are just, they shoot so poorly on a percentage basis outside of Randall. You just can't trust these guys. You're on the road here. Popovich will be ready. And I think, Jakob Poeltl in the middle, not that he's going to hold Randall by any means, but he's a presence down there.
I like him, Corey. I like him.
Yeah, Poeltl's a beast, man. The guy is a stat stuffer. Now that he's back from his injury, he's looking good again. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bet the game, but I think Spurs can get it done at home, even off the back-to-back.
So you got Jericho Sims on the Knicks, who's out with an illness or questionable. He is a glue guy, if you want to call it that. You do have Devin Vassell, who's questionable as well. So he's got a thigh contusion. Again, I mean, you when you have better players who are questionable at this case, they're tricking off the injury reports. You cannot get to the window early on these games. You just can't, Corey. I don't see it. So with Bates Diop also being questionable with his ankle and Devin Vassell, I think those are more important key players, if you will, for me to not get to the window. Looking at the model here, we've got New York at San Antonio. That totals 215. And I've got San Antonio winning by 3.12 points. So this is a game that they can easily steal. They're fighting hard. They're playing, what I like to call them is they are a really great coach team. If you give them time, or if you give Pops time to game plan, he's going to put up a pretty decent game plan. In this case, it is back-to-back. So you got to go with what you know, right? We've talked about in other shows how they've ran the motion offense, and this is probably what they're going to run today. And so if the Knicks don't have an answer for this, then they can turn around and lose this game in the second half. And so my lean really is San Antonio. This is a San Antonio upset, but also because it is a back-to-back, I probably would look at them early. If you looked at numbers last year, Corey, New York at the end or the second half of the season was just dominating first quarter and first half spreads. Right? You were just making some serious coin if you were taking them first half and in most cases first quarter. I like San Antonio to at least put up a fight here first half. Tibbs is going to play his starters for the entire game. That. So it's one of those things to where if you can possibly get a good number early on San Antonio, maybe this line moves a little bit with key players out, I would probably look at first half. But my lean, I'm in agreement with you. My lean would be San Antonio here. I do like San Antonio to at least put up a fight. We don't know what's going on with the Knicks right now. They're just tricking off games. I can't get a good beat on them right now. Just look at this record, man. They've lost to Denver, lost to Chicago, right? Lost to Brooklyn. They beat Atlanta, but you lose to Phoenix, you beat the Lakers, and you lose to Chicago. So they're losing against decent teams. We got to give them that, right? So maybe this is because we know San Antonio is at least a well-coached team, but not a good team, that they could win this game. But that line is short for a reason. It's short for a reason. So I don't think you're going to see New York come out and just dominate a game. I don't.
Yeah, and there's tough matchups across the board here too. If you're just looking at the game, I mean, you're going to have Derrick Rose on Murray.
Yeah.
Tough matchup for that guy. You got Derek White with probably Alex Burks. Tough matchup for that guy. Jakob Pertl. I mean, who's going to guard that guy? Mitchell Robinson down low. That guy will be in foul trouble in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking position by position, I mean, I know the Spurs aren't the better team here, but this New York Knicks team, you got Kemba Walker out of the rotation now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even think they know what they want to do with their minutes, defensively. So, yeah, I mean, I think I would lean the team that's got a game plan going into this thing. But, on any given night, New York gets hot from outside and it's over. But for me, especially with DFS, I'm going to be on the Spurs guys a little bit more here. I'll definitely be on Jakob Pertl.
Okay.
I think Murray's a good pay up spot tonight against the Knicks. He's been consistent lately.
Yeah.
Getting it done. Both last 2 games over 50 fantasy points. Alex Burks is way too priced up at this point. He was a must play, a week ago. He was down in the low, 4s to 5Ks. Now he's up to 6,700. It's kind of hard to go there with his inconsistency. And Randall's got a tough matchup for his price. So for me, I'm going to be on the Spurs guys and not too much there unless I have to squeeze somebody in here on the Knicks. But with the 3-game slate, you might end up with one guy from over there.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. Yeah. So right now it looks like we are in alignment. We are in this case, no play on the Nets and Mavs, no play on the Knicks and Spurs, but we are leaning Spurs here, which leads us to our key marquee game of the night, man. That is Lakers against the Boston Celtics. Now, if we were talking 80s, maybe this is a game that everybody would just want to get up and see, but this is not the Showtime Lakers. This is the show nothing Lakers at this point, man. Right now, Boston's record 13-11. LA's record is 12-12. They just stay at 500, man. They're just even. Against the spread, Boston right now is 14-10. The Lakers are 8-16. Away, Boston is 7-7. Home, Lakers are 8-7. We've got this right now at Boston +2. So we're not even giving the Lakers the -3, the home default score in this case. Right now, the total is 220.5. It looks like the line earlier was set at Lakers -2. So there is money coming in on the Lakers. That was also at 219 earlier. It is now at 220. So we do see that number going up. It may continue to go up. That's telling me there's not going to be any defense played here at all. I don't get it, man. We do have right now Boston themselves coming off a win against Portland on the 4th, 145-117. They did lose to Utah 130-137, but then have beaten Philly, Toronto, lost to San Antonio, lost to Brooklyn, won to Houston and OKC. On the Lakers side, they do play on the 9th against Memphis, who they've already beaten before. And it looks like Boston travels, to their hotel and back because they'll play looks like the Clippers on tomorrow. So this is the first of their back-to-back. This is probably why you're getting the +2. But once again, back-to-back game, and Lakers can't even get the -3. Lakers play 2 days later, so they'll have a day's rest when they go to Memphis. They lost to the Clippers last night, 115-119. They did beat Sacramento and Detroit before they did lose to Sacramento in overtime. I'm not getting the Lakers, man. I am not getting them at all. Saw the injury reports yesterday. LeBron James, probable. Ab. Carmelo Anthony, questionable. Illness. Anthony Davis, probable. Thumb. Avery Bradley, questionable. Thumb. Romeo Langford, probable. Ankle. Al Horford, probable. Back. Jaylen Brown, questionable. Conditioning. What in the hell is going on, man? I just don't get it. I don't get this at all. So I don't have a play here because you've got pretty much the whole Laker team out, possibly. Of course, that's not going to happen, but you saw this. When I saw this happen yesterday when Underdog had released the injury reports, I was just like, this is the worst I've ever seen. This is worse than, 2 years prior. What are your thoughts on this game?
This is Boston all day, man, and it hurts me to say it.
Wow.
Being from LA, man, it hurts me to say it. But look, I said before the season started that this Laker team was designed for the playoffs. They weren't built for the regular season.
Okay.
We've got a bunch of veterans that we know they're going to limit their minutes throughout the year. this is going to be a tough team to beat in a 7-game series when they're all playing. During the regular season, man, they're barely going to get by. You've got LeBron trying to figure out how to get Westbrook involved. And Westbrook, we know, is a guy that needs the ball in his hands.
Right.
The problem is LeBron is not that great off the ball anymore. LeBron's game revolves around the ball in his hands as well. Westbrook's not a spot-up shooter.
Right. Right.
You know, it's just a really bad regular season blend. And when I say regular season, it's because the defenses aren't turned up. And the Lakers have they're the second best pace-up spot in the NBA right now, only behind the Hornets, who are shattering records with how bad they play defensively.
Right. Right.
So you don't have the defense turned up. You've got, let me get this. Here we go. A little light there.
Got a little dark on me there, man. See, that's what happens when you start talking about the Lakers, man. Especially
I know.
From LA. You start talking about the Lakers, and then you get the curse going. I feel it, man. I feel it.
You know, I think they're going to be fine in the playoffs, but getting there is going to be a limp. And this Boston team, we just saw this game without Jaylen Brown, and I don't think he plays tonight.
Yeah.
And they dominate him. It wasn't even, I mean, I think it finished 130-108, but this game wasn't close from the jump. I know it's in LA. I just think Boston's a better team right now. And until the Lakers figure it out, get healthy, I think they're in trouble against these better teams. They're going to beat the Detroits, the Sacramentos,
absolutely,
some of these bottom feeder teams. They're not playing with the big dogs right now. They're not ready for it. I got Boston tonight, and I think it's a huge pace-up spot. I'm going to be loading up on the Celtics in DFS tonight.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's funny that you say that, because I always got to take my Laker fan hat off and just look at the game through a real perspective, not from a fan's perspective. And LA still is not beating good teams. They're not, right? You still see the adjustments being made by Vogel. I don't really understand what he's doing, but I do think Vogel's a good enough coach to figure it out at least before the All-Star break, right? We did see the move with Dwight now starting over DeAndre Jordan. You're just not going to get AD to play the 5. You know, I thought he was going to play the 5. He's just not going to play it. He isn't. You do need to have Westbrook with the ball in his hands. He's turned into my favorite guard, to my I hate you guard, back to my favorite guard. You know, I won't lie. I am wishy-washy with Russell. I've loved him as a player for a long time, but I've just hated him as a Laker. You know, so in my opinion, man, this is a game that Boston should be able to win easily. You lose to the Clippers. You lose to Sacramento. These are just teams that you really should be beating, especially when, I mean, for what it's worth, the Clippers are a pretty decent team with a good coach. You still don't have Kawhi there, but you got set pieces. But you shouldn't be losing to Sacramento. You shouldn't be losing the games that you know are just in your pocket. You could win with one arm tied behind your back. So I do think that the books don't trust the Lakers. I do believe you're going to see money come back on Boston once these injury reports come out. But the fact that you do have LeBron and AD and Carmelo on one side, the books are not going to make them dogs. You're just not going to see that happen. You're not going to see that happen. So, yeah, I do agree with you. If I'm just going to look at a broad perspective and look at this game in its most natural form, this is a game that Boston should win, hands down. So I do like the number. If I'm looking right now, let me check these numbers out here. This is funny because we've got a prediction average of this being minus 1.35. I've got one book that has it at minus 1.26, or not book, but model. I've got another model that has us at minus 2.34. This is all going to the Lakers, so they're not going to even cover the 2.5. I've got a total right now with this being 225. So that tells me, along with the books having this at 220.5, with the number going up, Corey, that this is going to be a game that probably won't have as much defense as you think. It's kind of high with the amount of defense that Boston has been playing. But I was wrong about Boston with Jaylen Brown out, how you're going to see how important they are. They're playing, they can play well without Jaylen Brown on the court, even though you do need him. He's probably your most important guy outside of Jason Tatum that's on that team. But they can manage without him, with Marcus Smart being, if you want to call, a leader on that team. I do like Boston here. I'm not going to lie. I don't think that the Lakers can cover this game, even though Boston's on a back-to-back. So, yeah, man, that is what I've got going so far. I have leans, 3 leans here. I'm leaning Nets, I'm leaning Spurs, and I'm leaning Celtics. I got some breaking news. The NBA informed teams today that unvaccinated players will no longer be allowed to travel to Toronto to play games beginning on January 15th, according to a memo obtained by Woj. So Woj bomb, man, coming in right now. Toronto's like, hail to the gnaw. If you are unvaccinated, you cannot play in Toronto. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and the NBA has been like very quiet on what percentage of these players are vaccinated until, health protocols pop up for the team. And we saw it really bad there in Charlotte recently. And some of these teams are getting battered right now with COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to find out. I mean, at some point, they're going to have to start releasing information on who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, because it's becoming an issue now. It's not just New York. Toronto, they're going to keep playing at home. And if you're going to see some games here without superstars, that's a whole different beast, especially playoff time. Is Toronto a playoff team? All of a sudden, you got a 7-game series. 3 of them are on, in Toronto. You're not going to see guys playing. So this is going to be an issue. And it's tough, man. I mean, you don't blame Toronto. Probably a good call here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We're not here to tell people to get vaccinated, not get vaccinated as NBA players. So it's a tough spot here for these guys.
Yeah.
And it's definitely going to disrupt DFS on those nights if it is an issue. The lines are going to swing. But we kind of got to get some clarity on where these teams are at as far as vaccination percentages. The NFL was very open about what was happening on each team.
Right.
They have the percentages out. They got the names of the guys that aren't. The NBA didn't do that. They kind of let it flow. And now we're in these kind of positions.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie kind of took all the media steam there to start the year, let everybody else off the hook.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely going to change things, but we'll see. They got about a month here to figure it out. And obviously it's not going to change the rules put in place, but maybe some more clarity comes forward on what this is actually going to affect here for us.
I hear you, man. I hear you. You are right about that, man. It's things are going to get much tighter before they get loose again. So that's the way I feel about it. Corey, it's been a pleasure, man. This is our pilot episode here, man. I like it. I think we've got something going on here. This is Getting in the Green with Perfect Strangers. It is me. It's Durrell. You can find me on Twitter, on the Twitterverse at ITSDERL. Corey, where can these fine young people find you, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on Twitter as well at Green Getting, because that's what we do over here. We try to get in the green every night. So check us out. We're going to start posting up, between 3 and 4 p.m. is just prime time for DFS with all the changes and stuff happening. So our pivots will be on there, our last minute plays, and just going to try and help you guys out the most here. So yeah, I'm loving this show, man. I think we can definitely help these viewers.
Yeah.
And let's get some money.
Let's get some money, man. All right. So we will be tuning. We're going to try to do this daily. Right now, that is our intent, to get this done daily to you, because it is, you can play games every day. So let's we'll get something going offline here to make sure that we can give the people what they want. But yeah, this was fun, man. This was very, very fun here. I enjoyed doing the show with you today. And as always, stay tuned. Take care.